Coming up on Verse, Chorus, Verse, let's take a pause on the season, everybody. DL got some things to say. That's next. Welcome to Verse, Chorus, Verse, everybody. Episode something around 215, I would think. I'm pretty sure it's 215. Don't hold me to that. I really should not even be putting the number of the episode in here because it seems to be wrong at least 3 times a year, which is really going to mess up the archivists when we get super famous and we have 7,000 episodes and people are like, hey, don't you remember in episode 215 when this and this and this, and it isn't actually 215. Actually might lead to some pretty good trivia at some point for Verse, Chorus, Verse. In which episode does he say it's 215 when it's actually 216? Well, that wouldn't be too hard to figure out. But anyway, I've had a coffee. How are you? I'm DL. I'm all alone and I'm ready to go. This is the second time that I'm trying to do one of these. I shouldn't say trying to do. I'm doing it. It's here. I have proof of what I am doing right now. It is a grab bag episode. It is DL talks to himself for an hour and feels a little ridiculous doing it. It's funny, I've been doing this for 3 to 4 years now, just the stuff on my own. Did the video content, which bombed terribly. We have a little more insight to that and reasons why, to where we will get into and possibly talk about how we're going to try it again next year, and it could be a lot better. That's the hope. Anyway, we think we know a couple of the bad things we did. Along with that, and me doing my own episodes over the last couple years, plus this year, it still feels really weird to be sitting here in a room talking to myself. I guess that's a good thing. Maybe that's proof I'm not a sociopath. Maybe sociopaths, I don't know. I'll let you all be the judge of if I'm a sociopath or not. Rachel and Evil will be able to tell you. I think they both would probably say yes, but they would know that at least I mean well. Half the time. Our first DL Has Thoughts grab bag episode did just fine. I believe we called it, what did we call it? Happy Hour. The Happy Hour with DL. That's what we're calling it, okay? It's Happy Hour with DL. I like that much more. Let's get rid of DL needs to get the grab bag out of his head and start calling it Happy Hour. It's much more delightful. It's much more of a campsite fire feel. You know what I'm trying to say. I've had one coffee today, I promise, but I'm also exhausted. I'm here in Palm Springs, actually. I'm here in warm, sunny Palm Springs at a really, really nice resort where I get to have zero fun because it's a ton of work. My outside time is going from one end of the hotel across the pool where I watch everybody have fun, going to the other end where I do more work. Hey, it's the life of 40-year-old people, right? That's just how it is. Anyway, my first happy hour episode went over well. The ratings were not great. They weren't terrible. So we're going to keep trying to do them. We're going to keep doing them. We're not going to keep trying. I can say we're going to keep doing them. And today, what do I have to talk about with y'all? Well, I have a couple of albums. I have a couple songs to break down. And I have some final notes on the Kurt Cobain and Unplugged episode that we did with Svend, Rachel, and Evil. That was that was a whirlwind of a few episodes, and I want to talk about it a little bit. And that's what I'm doing here. That's what I'm babbling about. One of the main things I'm going to make sure to do every time in this episode, for those of you that are curious what it's going to end up being, is I am going to try to bring up at least 1 or 2 albums that you might not know about, that I've heard or am enjoying from more indie type people. I think this is a great avenue to discuss that will hopefully help them out a little bit, get them a couple downloads, and keep it a positive thing. Also trying a new episode next week that I'm going to talk to you guys about, see what you think. And then after that, the next episode that starts next week is the beginning of our end of year episodes. For those of you that are new to the podcast, welcome. At the end of each year, we have about 8 episodes that we do to complete the season, and we are basically there. We are there after this episode. So I will give a real quick breakdown about that. Actually, I'll just do that right now. For those of you that are new, that you can learn A, what's coming up, and B, maybe even why you should stick around. Next week, I've got something brand new that I'm going to be trying. It is a very, very interesting style of episode. I promise you, it is like nothing that we have done. It is maybe a little bit of a dangerous thing to try on a podcast, but what the hell, right? Who cares at this point? I will give you more information on that episode specific at the end of this. So you're gonna have to stick around to find out what I'm doing. I promise you it's extremely interesting, and it has to do with music that if you're listening to a music podcast, you definitely are into. What else do we do at the end of the year? We talk about what our top 3 albums as a podcast were last year. We talk about if we still agree with it. We break down the albums a little bit. That's going to be in a couple episodes. Rachel and I, what we call a Meet the Beatles episode. Rachel obviously knew the Beatles, who they were, but had never gotten into the Beatles. I, of course, being the smart one of the group, have been obsessed with the Beatles since I was very young. So it's too juxtaposing. It's the guy that has loved the Beatles forever. It's the person that is just kind of giving the Beatles a chance. And it's a very fun way to do it. This year we are on to year 1965. A little bit of Help, a little bit of Rubber Soul. What more do you need for an episode other than those 2 things? I mean, you definitely only need 1. We're gonna do 2. We still have one more quickfire to do. We've got some new albums between the months of September and November to talk about. Quick reminder for those of you, we do our reviews by quarters. Our quarters start in December as opposed to January and end in November, because we need a month of being able to do the finale and things like that. We can't cover the albums that come out in December before the year finale. So September through November, we have some new albums coming out. I won't give too much away, but there's a few pretty big bands that came out with some stuff. We got a little bit of Nick Cave, a little bit of Jack White. Well, sorry, Jack White came out in August, maybe? I don't know. See, I don't even know what's on the list yet. We've got What Did We Miss This Year coming up after that. About 40 albums, honestly, this year that we haven't had a chance to talk about. This year started slow, it kind of sucked, but man, a lot of albums have come out this year that I haven't had a chance to listen to yet, and that is the goal of that. And then we have our 2 ending of the year episodes. We have our What is Music episode, where we pick a topic and we just shoot the shit for a couple hours. Last year it was offense in music. What is offensive, what isn't, what's allowed to be, what's not, what makes it so you can or can't listen to an album. It was a very interesting conversation, a little too deep maybe. I still don't know what we're gonna talk about this year. And then we have our finale, where we pick our bests, we pick our favorites and everything of the year. Those are the episodes upcoming for everybody. Hope that interests you, hope you stick around, hope you find out what my album of the year is. I think I know what it is. I think that I've already heard it, but like I said, I have probably 30 albums that I haven't listened to yet that I need to, so who knows? Something could be there. That's what we're doing for the rest of the year. That's what I'm talking about tonight. That's everything that's going on. So before we get to it, we gotta talk about the most important part of the night. What am I drinking? So, like I said, I'm in a hotel. Not a lot of avenues for me to go with, so I'm just drinking an IPA. I've got a La Quinta IPA, which I think is a local Palm Springs thing. It's good. I'm fine with it, and that's what I'm drinking. Super boring, right? But hotel, I just grab something from the guest thing and bring it up, and I start drinking. And that's what I'm drinking tonight. That's what we are doing for the rest of the year. That's what we're doing tonight. I think we got to get into it. Let's take a break, and the first thing that I'm going to do is talk about an album that I want you to go check out. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. We are back. Hi, everybody. How you doing? I hope you're well. I am. The first thing that I want to do is I want to bring to your attention an album called Neon Burning by the band Living in Shadows, the group, I guess.
Not a poison for me. I can live life free, innocent, satellites in our reality. Not a poison for me. I can live life free.
All right, so one of the first things I want to touch on this episode is a project that was sent to me. This was a few months ago it was sent, and I'll be honest, I don't respond as much as I used to things like this for multiple reasons that I won't get into here. I've already gotten into it in the past. We don't need to again. I do think that there are some issues with how busy artists have to keep themselves with doing their own marketing that makes it so they are a little bit hard to do business with sometimes. They're a little bit hard to communicate with sometimes. But I heard this project. I always listen when something's sent to me, always. So even if I'm not the best at getting it on the show anymore, I promise you I do listen to it. And when I listened to this one, it really stuck with me. It is Neon Burning, an album by a band called Living in Shadows, a duo, I guess I should say. It is, sorry guys if I butcher this, but it's Zoe Gilby and Andy Champion. Andy Champion, it sounds like, is the instrumentalist on the album. Zoe being a vocalist, a great vocalist we'll get into here in a second. It is a very, very unique project, and I'm thinking they will probably be able to let me know a little more in it. I don't have that much info as far as if Andy Champion played everything on this. I've read in here that he's a multi-instrumentalist, guitar player, a lot of jazz rock. He's been in previous jazz bands, things like that. It is produced by Chris Sharkey, which is very important for the things that I will talk about with this. Living in Shadows, they are out of Gateshead, UK. Reading the notes that are on Bandcamp. By the way, this album is on Bandcamp. It's like $7 digitally, euros. Please go buy it. It is worth it. It is totally worth it. They also have it on compact disc. I didn't buy the compact disc, but I did buy the digital version. And I've been listening to it a lot. The descriptions on it from the band, and there are also some quick one-sentence reviews, talk about how it is a very positively charged album. It's their second album. It's about narcissism. It's about very, very more deep progressive thinking. Something about switching between elements of fire and electricity, which I don't understand because I'm too simple of a person. Aesthetically, very jazz rock, which this is super true. One of the things that really stuck with me, and I didn't even notice this until after I'd written my own notes, is that it says it is beautifully produced, reminiscent of 70s and 80s rock pop. So this is why this album stuck out to me so much. This album is extremely earnest. It is very jazz intended, and I mean that in a fun way. I'm not talking about jazz. I'm talking about people that clearly play jazz, have grown up around jazz, learned in jazz, but are more into the rock. Those people tend to gravitate a little more towards your Peter Gabriel-esque sort of stuff, and that's what this reminds me of. There are very systemic breakdowns here. There's super carefully plotted string work. It reminds me of a little bit of the Dixie Dregs, which I talked about this year in the breakdowns and what scales and notes he's choosing with the guitar and bass. There's a lot of Steve Morse qualities with it, which goes along with the Dixie Dregs. It is an incredibly solid album. The only thing that I could see certain people saying about this album that they don't love is that it's cheesy. To wit, I would say to get over yourself. There are reasons that the quote-unquote cheese, the well-produced jazz rock in the 70s and 80s made it out alive and people still love it. Your Peter Gabriels, your Prince, your things like that. It's because it's fucking good. 80s jazz implementation into rock, that earnestness, it's why you have bands like Rush, bands like people like Prince, bands like Queensryche. To me, this has a very Queensryche vibe. There is a 1-2 punch on this album, the very beginning. You have Castaway and Who Are You? It is such a good 1-2 punch. There's such interesting percussive choices, which that's why I want to know more about the production and who did the drums and things like that, because not only are there really good choices, but this is so well produced. This is so well produced. Songs like Satellite, which is this very complex, mature, well thought out song as far as production. Every choice is so well produced. It really is a fantastic album. To start with Castaway, and you know, this is an 8-song album, and the average track length is probably something like 6 minutes. You know, first song is 5, second is 6. You get all the way to 10 towards the end. But Castaway, being the very first song, is just such a good opening track.
Who knows what you want? Just cast away and lose yourself in love. A silent voice to say you're not alone. You live your life your way, embrace and change.
You know, the beginning kind of fools you and lulls you in with this. It's almost like early 90s Tool production bass, but her voice kicks in. Her voice is very, it's almost like this new age Eddie Brickle. Like it's really, really cool. It's very, very, you can tell that she has some form of jazz and classical training. Her enunciation, her inflections, her tone is very, you can tell that she definitely was trained in mouth shape and things like that. These are two extremely talented people that have been working their craft for a long time that have made a really, really good album. And I don't mean in a, hey, this is an indie group that sent it to us. Let's do our best to try to help them out. I mean, like, you do yourself a disservice not checking this out. Maybe it's not for you. Maybe that style of music isn't for you. I know most of our listeners are rockers, but like I said, get over yourself. Like, just appreciate the talent here. Appreciate the, you know, like I said, the complexity of Satellites, the songwriting of Who Are You? Which, like I said, a little more of an Eddie Brickle vibe. This very, very kind of like a more sensual early 90s, late 80s rock feel.
Unmade lies lay in your bed. Worldly rise in a fool's game.
This is the sort of project that I am so eager to support. This is the sort of project that clearly, this is two people that really believe in what they're doing. This isn't a band that just wants to make it and just wants to this and just wants to rock and this and that. These are two people that care, you can tell, that care a lot about their craft, a lot about what they're doing, a lot about what they're making. And they should be extremely proud of it. So for Zoe, for Andy, and for Chris, once again, Chris Sharkey and the production of this, just freaking crazy. I will at some point, and maybe I'll even tie it into here, I would like more info on this album. I would like to know where they recorded this, how they recorded this, how much they spent recording it. Like, this sounds like just a few people that are really good at what they do that got together and made it, and they didn't have to, you know, break the bank. They didn't have to kill themselves over, you know, well, what are we going to do with this, and is this going to be popular if we do this? It just sounds earnest. That is the word that keeps coming into my head. This is such an earnest project. I love it. I'm not kidding. I love this to the point where it could be talked about at the end of year in our finale as far as best albums of the year. I am that impressed with this project, and it just keeps morphing. The more I listen to it, it keeps changing for me. That is Living in Shadows, Neon Burning. Go check it out. They're on Bandcamp. Just go look up Living in Shadows or Neon Burning. You'll see it on there. If you know my account on Bandcamp, go to there. It's on my whatever listen tos. Go check it out. All right, everybody, should we move on to the next project that I want to talk about? It is an album that just came out. I just got the vinyl, 3 or 4 days ago as I'm recording this. It is Shadow Loud by Sun Blood Stories. Sun Blood Stories is a band that I found a couple years ago. They were originally based out of Boise, Idaho. They are in Portland, Oregon now. They are a lot like me. They're just following me around everywhere I go to make beautiful music, which ironically, I have not seen them live yet, which is bad. Well, I guess I'll start there. I have supposed to have seen these guys 3 times now, one of which I was literally at Tree Fort. Like, one of the main reasons I was there was to see them, and it didn't end up working out. But yeah, I missed them at Tree Fort. I missed them again in Portland. They are playing in Portland. They just played in Portland and I was out of town again. I just keep missing these guys, which sucks because the style of music I can tell would be amazing live. I really want to see them. Tree Fort next year, I'm hoping. Maybe don't play on midnight on a Sunday, you crazy fuckers. But it is what it is. Sun Blood Stories, a couple years ago I found this album, Haunt Yourself, and I have no idea where I found it from, but I heard one song from it, bought it, completely loved it. Actually, no, it was farther back than that because it was the first year that I started the podcast, because Haunt Yourself had come out the year before I started the podcast, like 2019 or something like that. And one song in particular, Up Comes the Tunnel, just completely, if the podcast had been around the year that that album came out, that would have been one of my 3 songs of the year. That song is so amazing, and it really, really defines what this band's sound is. Now, this album, the one that they just came out with, Shadow Loud, which, thank you as an independent band. Thank you for coming out with a record and a tape and all that. Thank you for coming out with the physical media. I know it's not easy. I know bands like this make 0 money anymore, and it's ridiculous to try to even come out with physical media, but these guys are doing it, and I love it. So thank you for that, because it's important to us music fans. And I'm hoping that it helps you out. I'm hoping that, it's actually something physical that people can buy from you so you can get a little bit of money. Go buy a shirt from bands like, these are the bands that you want to go buy a shirt from. You want to go buy the album, go buy the cassette. Even if you're not going to listen to it, just go buy it and make it, well, that's stupid. Please listen to it. Don't buy a record and just put it on your wall, listen to it. Yeah, follow on Spotify, but what the fuck? What does that do? We talk about this all the time. You know this. I'll shut up. I won't do it. Originally from Boise, Idaho, they were founded in 2011. They've been around for like 13 years. Sun Blood Stories, according to their Wikipedia, named after the color of Boise's skies during summer forest fires. According to the Wikipedia, their mesmerizing live sound has been likened to modern-day opera. I don't know who wrote that. I don't know that I agree with it. Sounds really pretty. For a time, they were signed to Banana Stand Media. I don't know what that is. They're independent now. Always money in the Banana Stand, but apparently not enough. Sun Blood Stories is Aaron Clark on guitar and bass, Ben Kirby on vocals, on guitar, and plays slide guitar on this. Nick Kasosic plays bass. Amber Pollard is vocals, slide guitar, and noise, as she says. And then Summer Segrets is the drummer. I have a lot to talk about regarding these individuals. From the very first song, you can start to get a real feel for what this band's vibe is, which is, how do I even explain it? It's way too simple to just call it post-punk. I'll go through the first song by song. You have Amber's voice at the beginning is this super old school soul feeling, but she also hits these, she does these builds in songs where she starts and it is this just pure soul sound, like absolutely. But she slowly progresses into this kind of rock style tear. In All You've Got Is Time, which is the first song, it's completely soul at the beginning, but she turns on a dime from this kind of like this almost like 30s soul. She's got this like light lazy pronunciation thing that old soul had, where you might not be enunciating the first consonants of a word and things like that. It's really cool, but it just sort of molds into this huge, boasting, very pronunciated, loud, scratchy, Susie Sue type of thing. It's really fucking cool. And you go from that into Fossil Family, which is this really fantastic, tiny song, little exposition almost for Ben, who brings this whole other, it's still kind of an 80s-based post-punk sound. But the tone of vocals obviously is very different. It's somewhere between this, it's like this crooning post-punk. You could kind of, I guess, compare it to an Interpol or Editors, sort of, the bands that learned it from Joy Division, that type of thing. But it's something different. There is an effortlessness, but it's not emotionless. This is the type of feel that I just really love. You guys know me. I love this darker post-punk, artsy shit. I do. You go into the next song from there, Blood Memory, and you can hear, Amber is doing a lot of the exact same syncopations that Ben was in the last song. But in the last song, where there was this kind of bright, lulling gentleness there, this song brings in this massive driving drum and bass rhythm section thing that turns it from this kind of light, unsure feeling to this dark aggressiveness. These are the types of complexities that you get from an album like this, that you can't help but love an album like this. It is artsy, it's self-indulgent, there is noise, like for noise's sake. But I love that. I miss self-indulgent artists. There was a period there where like 4 or 5 years ago where I was just kind of, just give me rock. Like, can we just get back to basic rock? But now that rock is dead, not that it wasn't 4 years ago, but you don't get a lot of these self-indulgent artists that are just you just get the feeling that these people could give two fucks what you think of their music. And yet, at the same time, I am sure they are very vulnerable artists who have put themselves out there, and it's probably, I'm sure that my last sentence was totally wrong. I'm sure that if they listen to something like this, it's probably terrifying. I would be terrified because as an artist, as you all know, if any of you have made music, which I'm sure 90% of the people that listen to this have, somebody can listen to your album and tell you 37 amazing things that they love about your songs, about your sound, about everything. And then they will say one thing that might not even be a negative. Like maybe me calling it self-indulgent or something like that. And as an artist, that is the one thing that will stick with you for the rest of your life, because we as artists are fucking pathetic people, but in the best ways. I'm not calling you guys pathetic. I'm sorry. I love you all. Secret Cathedral. Go listen to that. The vocalists are working together amazingly, and I just love the female-male juxtaposition. I love it when bands are able to do that so well, and I love that it brings this haunting quality for these guys. Haunting, I guess, is just the word that keeps coming up. The real star to me, though, in this album, and I think every member is doing something great. I think this is clearly a band that's been playing together for a long time. They have their sound, they have their structure, they know what they want to be. But the rhythm section in this album is so understated. The rhythm section in this album, what the drummer is doing on these songs like Secret Cathedral, Brand New Ghost Town, it completely changes structure to something far more interesting than most of what comes out nowadays. You hear some police in the drum work, these very random, super quick hi-hat fills, and all of a sudden Summer's on the toms doing, it's not your typical hi-hat snare bass. It's not, but it's not fully, not just experimenting either. It is progressive, moving the plot forward sound. And I think it's great. I think it's great. I think that, first off, when I say I think, I mean it. I think that Shadow Loud is a great album. This is not the type of album that you turn on in the first listen and you're like, oh, fuck, yeah, done. No, you have to have time to sit in an album like this. You have to have time to, I've probably gone through it 4 or 5 times now. I am actually currently in Connecticut driving around, actually, really, really fun. The rental car place was out of things, so unfortunately I had to give me a 2024 Audi that I'm driving. So I'm cruising around in this Audi listening to this album, and there are those first songs. There are those songs like Secret Cathedral that it's just immediately like, oh yeah, this is a banger. But there's other stuff in here that you can't, it's gonna take you more than 2 days to figure this album out. I think this album is great. Maybe once I really figure this out, it'll be more of a 7 out of 10 or a 5 out of 10. But other way around, after 3 months of listening to this could be an amazing album, which is something that I do expect from a band like Sunblood Stories. A fantastic band. Someday I am going to see them live. Someday I hope to meet them. I can ask them. That's the other thing for an independent band that, like I said, probably doesn't have a lot of money behind them. The production on this is incredible. The production, and I don't know if it's just because they've had so long with their sound that they are comfortable and they know what they're doing, but this does not sound like an independent album. This is very well produced. Great usage of space. Amazing job, Sunblood Stories. This is a great album. Go to Bandcamp, go pick it up. Let's see. You're not just helping an artist out, you're helping yourself out. You're getting a good album. Sorry, I don't know how much it is. Download it digitally. You can get it on vinyl. You can get a cassette. You can get a shirt. One of my favorite shirts now is a Sunblood Stories shirt. I love it. I can't even tell. I don't even remember what it says, but it's a black shirt with, I think it's like planets on it in a row. It's just a cool fucking shirt. I love it. And it fits me really well. So good job on that. I'm sure they did that on purpose. Great album, Sunblood Stories. Please go check it out. We are back. Hi everybody, and I've got a little bit of 1994 content for you. As you know, we've been talking about 1994 all year, and it's been fantabulous. I guess we're still not done with it because there is one song that I want to talk about. I want to discuss the brilliance of and how much it means to me. We already did our 94 ending, and I think I picked this as my favorite song of 94, and there's a reason for it. It needs to be talked about more, and it is the song Hook by Blues Traveler. Oh, the brilliance of Blues Traveler. Where do we start? What I'm not going to talk about even is how brilliant the musicianship is in it, how it's one of the best solos I've ever heard with John Popper on the harmonica. But this is more about the structure and meaning of the song. First off, The chord progression, Pachelbel's canon, which has proven that really, if you want to write a song that will be popular, it is one of the most, I think it has been redone. There are a million pop songs that use the Pachelbel canon structure. If you, a brief Google will, Maroon 5, Green Day, Basket Case, cool. Don't Look Back in Anger by Oasis, Coolio. It's one of the most famous song structures in the world, and they chose that on purpose. They chose that because the song is proof that there is a structure to get people to think that you are deeply invested into your own song. The song hook, if you listen to the lyrics, the very first lines, it doesn't matter what I say as long as I sing with inflection. That is the point of the whole song. He says absolutely nothing in that song, absolutely nothing. And he says it with proof that nobody is listening to what he says. Nobody is listening to what this band is trying to say. I think there's two prongs to it. I think music is so powerful that if you use the right notes, you use the wrong song structure, it's going to sound so beautifully meaningful no matter what. And number two, there is a mechanical structure that has completely murdered pop, that music turned it into this sort of weird pop thing that is obviously based around selling, that he knew that he could write. This is his proof that I can write you a pop song that's going to do incredibly well, which it did. And that's what makes this all so great. Speaking more to the lyrics before we get into that, that's all he's doing through the whole song. He keeps, I've said nothing so far. I can keep it up for as long as it takes. The hook brings you back. It's once I get to this hook, once I sing this, you're there. The second verse is basically nonsensical. He's not meaning anything. And he even says, just to confuse things further, he brings up, instead of discussing a hook, which is, musical structure in a chorus, what you do to get the people really into the song, he starts talking about a completely different hook, as in Peter Pan's villain hook. He even says it, to confuse the issue, just more proof that he is not saying anything and it doesn't matter. I do love the very end of the very quick singing where he does I want to bust all your balloons, I want to burn all of your cities to the ground. I love that there is so much anger in this song because he is a great musician, he is a great songwriter, and he is basically admitting to us and himself that doesn't really matter. The layers of it, because even though what he's saying is that the song doesn't matter, it is kind of heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking for us to realize that. It is heartbreaking for him to say that, I'm sure. And that to me is what makes the song so brilliant. And it is further justified by how popular it got. That song was so popular that album went 6 times platinum. 6 times platinum. And I'm telling you right now, that album did not go 6 times platinum because people were listening to it front to back. That album went 6 times platinum because of the song's runaround and the song's hook. And the irony that the song Hook, the song that he created, made them sell 6 million copies of something is the epitome of that. There is no more brilliant move in music that makes a song perfect than this that I can think of in music history. It is the perfect song with the perfect story. John Popper wrote a song that was saying, if I use Pachelbel's canon, chord structure, if I sing the way that I'm going to sing, even if I literally tell you this song is about nothing, I am being insincere, I don't mean any of this at all, I'm not saying anything. I am saying complete gibberish. I'm just trying to confuse you. I can say that through the entire song and you will buy it and you will love it, and half of you, 80% of you, will not even understand what the fuck I'm saying. And that is exactly what happened to the tune of 6 times platinum. That is brilliance in music, ladies and gentlemen, and that is what makes Hook by Blues Traveler one of probably my top 5 favorite songs of all time. it should be yours too, even just for the irony of it. And for all you musicians out there that have tried to make something with yourself, the amount of fury that this song should make you feel should be incalculable. Oh, good job, IPAs. I don't think I can say incalculable. Inevitable. That is Hooked by Blues Traveler. I had to speak to it. We didn't dissect it this year. I needed to get that off my chest on our happy hour. So I'm not done with songs, and I have actually talked about this song before. I've talked about it before with Rachel and Evil, and the unfortunate thing about the talk is we didn't have enough time to where there was a lot of stuff that I felt that was missed. I don't think that I got to dissect the lyrics as much as I wanted to, as well as how well the lyrics go with the music. What I am referring to is the song Welcome to Hell by Black Midi. It's off their 2022 album called Hellfire. It was my song of the year in 2022. And it is so brilliant on so many levels that I just have to cover the bases that I was not able to cover that first time. And it really is just what the lyrics are truly saying mixed with how the music is conveying it. The beginning of the song of Welcome to Hell, the sweet peals of moonlight induce lovemaking on the streets, the soft purr of motorbikes, striking up the night alight. The beginning of the song is already painting a picture that a lot of us ex-military know of some form of Eastern country that you are taking shore leave in, that you're getting off the ships, you are going to relax, going to have a drink. It is this beautiful new place, this exciting, exotic new place. I'm sure that it's a personal thing, but even just the soft purr of motorbikes. This song to me is exactly everything in my head that was happening when I took shore leave in Pattaya Beach, Thailand. And it brings up this positive vibe of you're getting off the ship, you're getting onto land, and it's the nightlife, it's there, it's ready to go, it's at your feet. Don't tell me your troubles, your emotional grief, take in the sights, don't talk of true love, unscrew your frown, enjoy the entertainment. This is basically what the military is telling you on shore leave. You have been either at war, preparing for however long you've been out to sea, which for us at this time, which was the early 2000s, was a very intense time. Some of you Americans might remember what happened in 2001. We would do these long periods of consecutive days at sea, and then they would give us, 72 hours. One of those days of which you have to stand watch on the ship. So basically like one night at a place like Pattaya Beach, Thailand. And they are telling you, go let loose. Don't get us in trouble, but go let loose. Which is essentially just saying go insane. For those of you that know military people, we're talking about, let's see, when I went to Pattaya Beach, I was 19. They are telling a 19 to 20-year-old to go out in Thailand on this place where everywhere is a bar. Every woman is in some form or another a prostitute. Go relax. You can put two and two together there. Make memories, haunting or fabled. The gallant mist of red-blooded chivalry instilled in basic training. You were taught to be a man. You were taught to be a stone-cold, red-blooded male. And you need to go out and you need to practice your urges. Moves on to say that basically you need to understand that you are a soldier. You have secured your place among the saints. To die for your country does not win a war. To kill for your country is what wins a war. You need to be what we have trained you to be. Don't tell your name. Don't ask for hers. For the record, and my mom listens to this half the time, I promise you, God's honest truth, did not do anything like that. I was in all purpose, I was actually a pretty good kid up until my 20s, but never had a prostitute. You can be proud of that one, right? You're welcome, Mom. So here's the whole verse. Don't tell your name, don't ask for hers. In this land of oysters, you are the world. The painless plainness of military life resumes tomorrow night. Go out, have your fun. Tonight you are a god. For me, you are in Thailand, where you can buy a round of beers at a bar for $7 for everybody in the bar. You can ring the bell for freaking $6 American. Tonight you are a god. Tomorrow you are back to the painless plainness of military life. The droning, same thing every morning, same thing every day. We've gotten you so used to it that when the planes leave with bombs and come back without them, you don't give a shit. When you are out at war and you are starting to feel guilt, now we move on to the next verse, where it has changed to being at war. You've gone on your shore leave, you come back, you are now in the Gulf, and you are in operation whatever, and you are having a hand in killing these people. But fear not, because in verse 3, if not for you, it would have been cholera, malaria, some eastern disease. Forget about it. A slap of it.
If not for you, it would have been cholera, malaria, or some eastern disease. Forget about it, son. A slap is all you need.
This is a chief talking to a petty officer who is feeling shitty about the fact that he's killing people, saying, get the fuck over yourself. These people were gonna die anyway. These people mean nothing to you. They aren't Americans. They don't believe the same things you did. We did it all. We've seen it all. Much worse. I was in Nam. I was in this. I was in that. Too many massacres to recall. So shut up. You're being weak. We move on to verse 4. Limbs rendered birds. A soup nothingness that once was your best friend. Motherless children. Temptress widows. The wild... You watching your friends get killed. He's talking about you watching the people in this country get killed. You're watching, the parents that you've murdered, things like that. They are wild, they are useless, they are dead, they are untamable. Untamable being the prime word. We are not able to get these people to do what we want them to. So they have to die. We move on to the next verse, where the person has clearly had a mental breakdown, where the person, now war has broken the man. Now war left him crying in a ditch or losing his mind, to where, once again, it is clearly somebody higher in the chain of command, shivering, fuck, don't stain this street. You're lucky I don't shoot you on the spot. Our bullets were made for men like you. The impotent idiots, God forgotten. To the end, now you're on your own. We don't need men like you. To recap, this is the most well plotted out, unbelievably, amazingly accurate story of what the military does. And to be clear, I'm not anti-military. I did my 5 years. I'm glad I did it. I met great people. I had a couple, not many, but I had a couple great leaders. I learned a ton about myself. I became a better person because I was in the military. But let's be clear, the military is not a good place. It is not a place where they give two fucks about you. And maybe that's not the worst thing in the world. That I'm reminded of the speech that Jack Nicholson gives in A Few Good Men. You guys weep for the innocent, and you weep for the weak. We are the ones that you want guarding you, is basically kind of essentially what he's saying. He might be right. It's a great fucking speech. All I am saying is that the military chews young men up and spits them out. That's what I'm saying. It has since we started the military, and it still does. And just because these kids aren't in fucking Nam or Iraq, people that haven't been in the military don't understand the mental toll of certain things like that. And this song depicts it more amazingly than anything I've ever heard. There's a lot of fucking war songs out there. This depicts the life of a modern soldier in a better way than I could ever have possibly explained it. And that's not even talking about the music in the song that is very odd, that is very almost circus-like. It's boisterous, and it's a little more major and positive, but by the end, when he's yelling at this kid, this shivering fuck, who our bullets were made for, it is harsh and wicked and violent. It is structured so perfectly, and I can't overstate this enough, that this is one of those songs that it's really easy to just listen through and not think of A, what they're saying, and B, what the music is contributing to those thoughts. I urge you to listen to this song again. If you know anybody in the current military, or anybody that's on a ship, anybody that is out on a tour or anything like that, listen to this song, and I promise you it will help you empathize what they go through on the day-to-day. They might not be at war. You know, I was only in war for half my time in the military, but I will tell you what, I can't be distinctive with when I was and wasn't. There was a weird mentality about watching bombs leave and not come back, and seeing, you know, certain things. And I was on an aircraft carrier. I was probably one of the safest people. I was on one of the safest places in the world in 2001 and 2002. You know, our militaries are built to protect where I was. So it wasn't like I was ever in danger. It wasn't like I was ever, you know, on a fucking battlefield. But there is a mentality there with watching bombs leave and not come back. And then all of a sudden you're watching the news the next day and some fucking school was bombed. Well, that's not a good feeling for anybody. You can imagine what that can do to you if you have a fucking conscience. And this song, this is not supposed to be some personal fucking, I'm trying to convey how amazing this song is. And that's the best way I know how to do it. Welcome to Hell by Black Midi. I hope these guys understand how important I think this song is. And I don't know, maybe I'll write them an email and just let them know that I really appreciate it. This song means a lot to me. And now we can move on to something else, ladies and gentlemen.
Preston Bumble, hereby discharged!
All right, everybody, last thing that I want to do tonight, we have come out with our Nirvana Unplugged and Kurt Cobain content, the death of Kurt Cobain from '94. If you didn't listen, go back and listen to that first. Check it out. Let us know what you think. I wanted to give some final thoughts on it. I think that the episodes ended up going well. Many different angles of Svend's drunken, who gives a shit, why are we doing this episode, to Evil's enjoyment of all the conspiracies of whodunit being completely new for him. Because of those differences and because of everything we laid out with the talents and the enjoyment, I personally think it went really well. It was really mostly positive feedback. We had one or two people. I usually, if somebody usually messages me, if you Instagram me or email me and stuff, you guys know I answer and we'll talk about it. Some of this stuff I choose to answer on the pod, very rarely. And there was 1.5, I'll say, people that said that they felt that what we were saying was pretty disrespectful. I very much disagree with that. I do not think that talking about something, yes, I get, if you want to say that we were pandering, you can. You're wrong. I'm telling you, you're wrong. We don't pander. If we pandered, trust me, as a music podcast, if all we were trying to do is get popular, there are different ways that we could pander. We don't pander. We don't give a fuck how many listens we get. We really don't. You know how many times Rachel and Evil ask me like what our listenership is at right now? They never do. They don't care. They don't. They just want to be part of this. Same with me. I check our listenership. I mean, when we first started, I check it every day. Now I check it probably once a month. Granted, it doesn't change that much anymore. You know, small raise. But anyway, the point being, we don't do things for the clicks. We don't do things for the listens. We don't do things for the downloads. We really don't. This wasn't pandering. There are people that are my age or around my age, maybe the generation after, that this is a fun thing for us to talk about. The way that I've always approached this podcast is that I picture myself at a bar with friends, meeting new people that love music as much as I do, and it's the conversations that we would have there. That's to me what this is all about. And Kurt Cobain dying would be a top 5 conversation for that. Were we being disrespectful by talking about it? Define disrespectful. Who am I being disrespectful to? To the Cobain family? To Francis Bean? Who am I being disrespectful to talking about this stuff. I don't understand that. I really don't. Am I being disrespectful to you? Because it was, what? Because Cobain's death was too hard on you? Was it any harder on you than anyone else that he meant a lot to in that generation? And if so, why? And if so, is that our problem? I don't think it is. This sounds dickish, but you don't get to decide what is and isn't disrespectful. You can absolutely have your opinion, and if we offend you, I'm not one of those people that says if we offend you, fuck off. I don't want to offend anybody. I don't mean to. Sometimes I say shit just because it's funny, but I'm not actively trying to offend people. Kurt Cobain is an incredibly interesting piece for me to talk about. It always will be. I'm sure it'll be talked about again on this, and I don't feel bad about that. Like I said, most of the responses were positive. Most people enjoyed the episodes. It got a little clumsy towards the end, but that's because with topics like this, topics like this mean quite a bit to our generation. And I think that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing to cover them. Because it's more fun to talk about why Courtney did it and that sort of thing, we didn't touch on things like, Courtney probably didn't. There's a lot of other stuff saying that. And if you aren't a regular on the podcast, you wouldn't know that, we've already done an episode on Hole. And on that episode, Rachel and I do talk about how rough we as people were on Courtney Love through all this. Because we don't know. We don't have any idea. But if you aren't a regular on the pod, you don't know us. And what you can't do is you can't just go off of one episode on Kurt Cobain, which is one of the more infamous situations in our generation's culture's history. If you listen to one or two specific episodes about Evil this year, you would think that he's just a fucking muscled out, jocked asshole. When in fact, that could not be farther from the truth. There's a reason that he's one of my closest friends, and trust me, if he was just some jocked out fucking asshole, he wouldn't be. He's the absolute opposite of that, as much as he tries not to be. Kurt Cobain was very important. We're gonna have strong opinions about it. If you disagree with those opinions, great. That's the whole point. Talk to us about it. And like I said, I talked earlier in this episode about how artists just concentrate on the one. They'll have 40 people tell them that something was great, and then they'll concentrate on the one person that said something. That's just how we are. I disagree with a couple of things that happened in the episode, I'm not saying I disagreed with the people that are saying it. I do think that what happened to Kurt Cobain matters. I don't think that we're ever going to figure it out, which I believe was Svend's point. I don't think Svend was trying to say he doesn't think it matters. I think he was trying to say that it can matter all we want, but it's not going to fucking fix anything. We're never going to know. Could be true, but the big takeaway that I want to reiterate, I feel like I said it once, but not enough. There was a long period of time there where he was too easy of an answer to be your favorite artist. Nevermind was too easy to be your favorite album. As a music lover, you don't want fucking track one, side one of the first Beatles album to be your favorite song ever. It's too easy. But as I studied, really got into Nirvana again and Kurt Cobain and what he was about, when I asked in the episode if he was the last true rock star, you watch him, you hear him, you watch the interviews, and most importantly, you listen to the music he came out with. You listen to Nirvana Unplugged, from Bleach, In Utero, Nevermind, you listen to it. I don't think that there is an artist out there nowadays coming even close to holding any sort of candle to him. I never really thought that way until studying for this. Sorry, I'm 30 years late to the party. I am confirming what people were saying then, that when we lost Kurt Cobain, we might have lost originality in music, at least for a time. And I definitely think that we lost the last true rock star. What Svend was saying in the episode that I agree with, well, he said that we evolve as people. I don't really agree with that. I feel like there might be some sort of halt in our evolution, or we're maybe devolving. But what his point is that we don't forever have to be heroin addict, fucked up people to be able to create art. Now that there are huge advances in therapy and our look on mental health is improving every day, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I do agree, and I think part of what he was trying to say is we don't have to be like, you can still be an incredibly creative artist and not have all those issues, but still be able to put those issues into your music. I agree with that. I do, and that's why I think that we're never going to see another one like Kurt Cobain that tortured the ability to get out what he got out. I think because of advancements, I just don't know if we're going to see it again. Even as somebody who grew up loving Nirvana, going back into it, I somehow missed a little bit of credit. If you ask me on any given day, I'll take a Lane Staley over a Kurt Cobain, but I would be a fool, especially, after spending a few months with Nirvana and studying for all this, I would be a fool to say that Lane Staley, Chris Cornell, Dave Grohl, Courtney Love, anybody had an artistic impact, not even in the same fucking stratosphere as Kurt Cobain. And that's kind of how I should have ended the episode. But hey, sometimes we get to wrong our rights. I'm leaving that in. I did not say that on purpose. I'm leaving it in because it's hilarious. VerseChorusVerse.com, that Verse Chorus Verse Pod. Hey, to all the songs, all the bands that I talked about, once again, just get on Bandcamp. Okay, go do it. Go help these people out. They deserve it. Go listen to these albums. They're really good. And then come back and join us next week. I'll tell you what I'm doing next week. This is going to be very interesting. So once a year, I've started doing something by myself because I don't want to get anybody else in trouble. I am calling them the Dare episodes. Your friendly neighborhood DL, other than drinking, that's all I do. I don't drink as often as it sounds, just every time I podcast and on the weekends and weekdays. No, but for real, I drink. I don't do anything else. I have caught myself a few times over these last few years thinking, if I was under the influence of something specific, this album would hit me differently. So what I'm going to do now once a year towards the end of the year is I'm going to maybe go under the influence of a certain something and try an album that supposedly goes along with that certain something. I am only allowed to study for it, make notes for it, under the influence of that certain something. So this year, I'm starting off easy. I'm doing Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. I'm going to listen to it while under the influence of something that I have not done in maybe like 8-9 years, something like that. It's gonna be fun. We'll see how that goes. Very, very interesting. Hey, thanks for listening. Thanks to everybody. Thanks for the music. We love you. Good night and good luck.
Your emotional grief. Taking the sights, this is shore leave. Don't talk of too long. Unscrew your frown. Enjoy the entertainments of nighttime town. Experience the red rooms, the green tables, the souvenirs. Make memories haunting or fabled. The gallant mist of red-blooded chivalry instilled in basic training.